guys, happy Friday, and welcome to season 4 of the Collaboration Conversation, a listener-supported video podcast where Christian artists, entrepreneurs, and friends share about their upcoming projects and how they are using the gifts and talents that God has given them. To what end? To share the good news of King Jesus, of course, as always. And today we are so excited because we have a little bit of a unique situation.
Yes, we do.
We always have just one person, but today we have two. We have two very special guests. We have Kerrie Frazier and Kellie Tropiano. Kerrie and Kellie are hosts of the podcast Hymn Talk Twin Talk. They are identical twins. They both serve in the worship ministry at their local church, and they are both music teachers. Kellie works in a private high school as the choral and theater director, and Kerrie teaches music to grades K through 4 in a public elementary school. Kellie, Kerrie, welcome.
Yay! Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Diane. We're really happy to be here.
Yes.
This is going to be so much fun.
Yes, and it's great to meet you finally. We connected, I think, on Instagram, which is such a weird world in my mind. She loves it, but it's like, I don't get it. But, and we've been talking back and forth for months. So it's great that this is, kind of finally worked out. So
Instagram is just great. You use the right hashtag, Christians on Instagram or Christian family and
podcasters of Instagram.
Yeah. You end up finding people. It's such a great way to network and find other Christians from around the world. Love it.
Yes.
Okay, that's really good advice.
It's really, and it just makes the world a little bit smaller.
I never do that.
I know. She's like, I don't want to do it.
Yes.
But we have to.
You have to.
And now that you're saying that, I think that's what you did. You searched a hashtag and you what are you doing? This sounds interesting.
What are you doing?
So that's how we connected.
That's
Kerrie
awesome.
is really good at it. So she's the one that's, on Instagram pushing things, and it works. It works.
Yeah. We're here today because of that.
Yeah. Okay, well, tell us a little bit about you guys.
Well, we are identical twins.
Yes.
I'm Kellie.
I'm Kerrie.
And we're identical twins. This is how we start our podcast. We go, I'm Kellie.
I'm Kerrie.
And we're identical twins.
Cute.
That works.
I love it. Why don't we do, I'm Sarah.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
You could.
We could. See, because some people don't know that.
Yes, that's true.
Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, it's funny. We think we say it all the time.
Right.
When we introduce ourselves that way, on every episode, in our introduction, even later in the episode, we say it a lot, but it still surprises people.
Yeah.
We'll say, so you have to do it every time.
And they say, are you twins? And yes, we're twins.
Oh, that's funny.
That is awesome.
I believe you. I'm not even going to question it at all.
And our lives are very, very similar. People who are interested in twins always get a kick out of it. We are both moms. We both have 3 children each.
We're both music teachers.
We both work at a church. We both worship lead, play the piano, sing,
play the organ.
Yeah. And we both are podcast hosts.
Right. And we have weird things, that are similar. We even though our children are different ages, we both had 3 children under 4.
Yes.
Yes. We both married men who were the babies of their family.
Yes.
Just kind of weird things.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
That's
Do you guys have
cool.
a comprehensive list somewhere?
I know. We really should write them all down.
Right. We don't. But every time something comes up, we're like, ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the truth is that we are obviously very alike. We know it. We say it. We sound alike. We talk alike. We act alike. But, we're both music teachers, but I'm really drawn to high school and college age. And she's really drawn to elementary. And so I look at her job and go, I don't want to do that. And she looks at my job and says, I don't want to do that. But to the world, we're both music teachers. I mean, we really are.
Right.
That is so cool. And I bet you guys, when you sing together, I bet that is stellar.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's another little challenge to our faithful podcast listeners, because they try to figure out who's talking and who's singing and whose voice. So we try to reference each other. So I'll say, Kerrie, what do you think? To remind people who we are, because they say that a lot of the time they're just trying to figure out, who's who.
Who's talking.
Yeah, we
That's
got
so
that
interesting.
feedback. Yeah, we got the feedback that people thought it actually was distracting. It took away from the podcast because they were trying so hard to figure out who was who.
Right.
And we're like, who cares? Just listen.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. I feel like, even just in this little hot minute, that Kerrie you have a thicker accent.
Do I like a Boston accent?
Yes.
Oh.
Do you hear it?
Well, I wasn't paying attention. Now I will. Now I
but see,
will.
but
Now
did
you
I
will.
was paying attention to that though. I was like,
But
can
that
I?
might make a smidge more sense because I do a lot more performing and acting and public speaking than she does. And so, when
So you tried to ditch the accent, I guess.
Yes.
Leave it at the
And
door.
So it's very little. So if it is there, that might be the reason why.
That would be the only thing. I guess I even looked up. I was like, could I tell the difference? And that would be the only indicator for me. But
honestly,
go ahead.
sorry. And honestly, singing too is almost impossible to tell the difference.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you guys sing together a lot?
Mm-hmm.
So we sing at our church. We, as part of leading worship, we are always singing together.
Yes. Okay.
And on the podcast, we used to sing every hymn, and then we started networking with other amazingly talented Christian musicians, like so much talent out there. And so we've been inviting people to share their music, so we don't have to.
But at every episode, we probably
right.
sing like a verse or
Yeah.
a refrain. We'll sing something. And usually she will do a harmony part and I will do the melody, which is so weird because our whole life growing up, you would do the melody and I would do the harmony. Somewhere in our adult life, we switched.
You switched. I just remember my mom and her family and up to your mom were singers, and there's this like recording of all of you guys, you and your siblings, and I could not, like, just the way that you guys harmonize because you're related, just sounds so beautiful. So I can only imagine what you two sound like.
Yeah, twins. That'd be
I bet that's
and
incredible.
then our children are singers, so it has went down to the next generation. And
I
Oh,
love
yay.
that. That is awesome.
Well, so how? What are the ages and genders of your kids?
Okay, so I'm Kellie, and I had children first. So I have a boy who is 21, and then 2 girls ages 20 and 16.
Wow.
And I have 3 as well, but I have the opposite, 2 boys and a girl. And so my oldest, the boys are 18, 17, and my daughter's 14.
Oh my gosh,
Wow.
but still so close in age.
I mean,
So
all
close.
6 of them are in 7 years. So
How
all the
fun.
cousins are super close.
I love that so much. Can I
Yeah.
be in your family? Yes, that just sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
That
The
is so
cousins
cool.
are very, very close. The cousins are pretty much like siblings,
Yeah,
They're together a
sure.
lot. They fight. They hang out. It's everything that you would want in a sibling.
But the cool thing that we tell people that, like, people know it, but like to hear it, it does make you like perk up. So our children have the genetic makeup of half siblings.
Right.
Yes.
Because
There are children, and we're identical.
and
Right.
then the fathers are different.
Yes. That is interesting. You guys have seen that article, I'm assuming, recently of the 2 identical twins that married 2 identical twins. So they're
Yes.
technically biologically
Yes.
siblings.
We wanted that for ourselves.
We
Oh, that hit a sore spot. I'm sorry.
we couldn't find any twins.
We were actively
brothers.
searching.
That is funny.
That is funny. But aren't you glad you got the ones you got? Those are the ones you're supposed to have.
2 good,
Two good ones. So that's great. That's
funny.
so funny because they are. I would never have thought that they were half siblings, but that's so true. So like they really are siblings. That's great.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm so jealous. I really wish. I told my cousin recently. I was so dramatic. I was on a plane and I was crying. I was like, I wish we were closer, like physically. So anyway, I love that you guys have that. Well, you've kind of given us a little bit of insight, but what is it like being a twin? I mean, what are the annoying things? What are the beautiful things? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it?
I mean, I can't think of anything annoying. Can
I
you?
can't think of anything
I can't think of
annoying.
anything.
I love
annoying.
that.
I can't think of any drawbacks.
We have known twins, and I'm sure people have seen them and heard them, where they kind of complain about always having
To share
to
your birthday.
share. Yeah, I mean,
or-
we loved sharing our birthday, no problem there. Or even just having to share everything. Like we shared clothes, we still do. We still
Yep.
switch shoes, and I can't think of anything annoying.
No.
And,
Perfect.
It's funny because one of the things that's awesome about having a twin that I had to watch each of my children do alone
Right.
is that they didn't have someone with them for all the firsts. First day of kindergarten, I had to send my child onto the bus alone. And it was so sad, but yet every single person in the world goes to kindergarten, first day of school alone. I never had that experience. I always had someone with me. First day of school, first day of middle school, first day of high school, first dance class. It was always great. I literally never had to do anything alone. We even went to freshman year of college together. So even moving into college and moving into our dorm, we did together.
Right.
That is so cool.
Where did you go to college?
I went to Gordon. Well, we started together at Gordon College, which is a Christian college up near us.
Okay.
A liberal arts Christian college with a fantastic music program. And for 1 year, we were together there and we're roommates together.
Yeah.
So cool.
And in that year, I mean, it was just, the school was very small. It's a great school, but it's
also nearby.
It's nearby. It was like 45 minutes from our parents' house. And it was 1,200 students. And I would say by January, I was like, I don't like this anymore. I felt like it was too small. I felt like everybody
kind of knew
our business. It was like you couldn't sneeze without everybody thinking you had a cold. Like literally the whole school knew everything.
Yeah.
And I wanted to step out. I wanted to do my own thing, but I was super nervous.
Yeah.
So I ended up transferring to the University of Massachusetts, and we had a small campus, which I say small, but it was like 12,000 students.
Right.
And it was like 20 minutes from my parents' house. So that's where I went. And that was huge.
It was a big change for us.
Was that kind of the first big thing you guys did not do together? Like you went your separate ways.
Wow.
And then after that, she just like couldn't get away. Then she went to University of London.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a little bit farther.
Yeah. Well, I'll never forget. So that year that I was at the state school, by Thanksgiving, I said, I don't like it. Like, I wish I pushed myself to go further and to go bigger. and my parents literally said, you cannot transfer again. Like, that's crazy. You have 3 schools, 3 years. So I ended up finding an exchange program and I was able to do it. So
That's
that
awesome.
to me is really where I stepped out.
Yeah.
The state school still felt really safe.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to push just one more. And then once I did that, I was like, okay, I can do anything.
Yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah.
And I watched her do all of these things, and I kind of thought she was crazy. And I don't know, I was so like goal driven. It was like, you're not going to graduate in 4 years. It's going to take you so much longer. Like, I just want to finish. And sure, she did. It took her 5 years. I graduated in 4. I mean, and like, who cares?
I know.
It was such a big deal at the time. But
Yes.
like, who cares?
Really,
Looking back.
honestly, who cares? Totally.
Isn't that so funny? So I've been in higher ed for 25 plus years. So that was helpful to the kids as they were going through college. And she had finished a degree in 4 years, but she had all these extra units. And she's like, what would you think if I went an extra semester? This is this huge decision. And now we look back. Of course she went.
It made sense.
I know.
And we had very similar college experiences. I went to a very small Christian liberal arts musical theater school. And then I was like,
in Tennessee.
I was in North Carolina. It's called Catawba. They were really big in theater at the time. And then I was like, nope, not for me. But anyway, we just had very similar.
Yeah, went to the state school.
Went to a state school.
But it's just so funny, at the time, like you're saying, these decisions seem
Gargantuan.
Yeah.
And life altering.
why if you have all of the units but like 2 classes, yes,
take the extra
just
semester.
go another semester.
Take an extra lap. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Well, so cool. Okay, so you're both worship leaders.
Yes.
Tell us, a little bit about how music. Oh, and music teachers. So tell us a little bit how you guys started in music. Were your parents into music? Was that a generational thing that got passed down? How did that kind of spark with you guys?
So our parents will tell the story. I mean, they were not musical. They didn't have a whole lot of money to spare. And my mom,
Neither of them had gone to college.
Yep. At the time, my mom saw an ad in the newspaper that someone was giving away a piano. And she just thought, I think my house should have a piano. So they moved it. They paid $100 to move it. They put it in the house. And my mom would say she just prayed that one of her daughters would want to play it. And yeah, here we are.
And there were times, so they got us involved in piano lessons right away. And there were times where, they really didn't have the money and they would only have one piano time slot. So she would go one week and I would go the next. So we were taking piano lessons every other week.
Oh my God.
But it didn't matter. Like they were faithful to it. Like it was going to happen however it was going to happen. It was going to.
Yeah. Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, we have an older sister, Missy.
Okay.
And she actually has Down syndrome. And she was right in it with us.
Yeah.
She was taking piano lessons.
Aw.
She's only 18 months older than us. So a
Oh,
lot of the
wow.
things that we did as twins, she just did with
She just
us.
did
So
with
it
us.
was
Yeah.
like we were triplets. Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that. That's awesome.
That's sweet. Well, it's funny. Your piano teacher might not have known that you were
Well,
switching
that's
off every
true.
other week.
True. Totally true. Totally true.
Might not have even known there were twins involved.
And we had like this healthy, I say that it's
Yeah.
healthy. We had like a healthy sibling rivalry because
I don't even want to call it rivalry.
I
It's
know.
like competition.
sibling
Yeah.
motivation.
Yeah.
Motivation.
Because
Yeah.
I didn't, no matter what, if I didn't feel like practicing, if I didn't feel like playing, if I complained about the lesson, if I didn't want to do it, I couldn't let her get really good at it.
Insane.
And beat me left in the background doing nothing, having no talent. You know? I could not let her get so much better at it. I had to practice and I had to. And
yeah, that's how it was with school too, like with our grades. I mean, we always had very similar grades.
similar.
Our GPAs were like the exact numbers because we always, wanted
That's
to be
funny.
as good as we could be, and not have the other one be better.
Right.
That's
And
awesome.
It was like years later when we talked about it, and she said, well, I kind of wanted to quit the piano too, but I wasn't going to ever say it because I didn't want you to get better than me. Like we both
Right.
felt the exact
You
same
acknowledged it. Oh, that's funny.
Well, how do you split up your responsibilities as worship leaders?
So
That is different.
Yeah.
So I am the director of worship and music ministries at the church. It's been my job for 20 years.
Wow.
My middle child, my daughter, was turning 1, so I always can remember the year. So, and she's 20. And they said, our music director just stepped down. Can you help us out? It was like March, right around Easter, at least through Easter. I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then, can you help out like just through the summer, and then we'll figure it out. And I've been there ever since.
20 years later.
Yeah. So what happened was, when you're a musician, when you're musically talented and in any way, and you're involved in a church, but at some point or another, you're going to be asked to do something. They want you
Right.
to sing in the praise team. They want you to sing in the choir or play the piano. So in the church that I was attending, I had been doing that. The organist took a maternity leave and I stepped in. And so I just kind of helped them. And so then when they needed someone suddenly, of course I was going to step in. But I was always the music teacher, Christian, who just kind of helped out the church when they needed it. But somewhere along the last 20 years, it really did become a vocation. I didn't know. When I was 18 and trying to get a major in college, I wasn't thinking worship leading at all, but it became that. And I ended up going to school at the Robert Weber Institute for Worship Studies in Florida. And I got my doctorate degree in worship studies in 2012. So this really did become my thing.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just a hobby anymore, and it wasn't just helping someone out. And so I loved it. I worked at the church all the while I was getting my degree. And so coming back with what I had learned and changing things up and trying new things, it was such a wonderful place to work. They supported me financially. They supported me with my talents. They gave me a space to be creative. It was wonderful. And then I graduated and I kept doing it. It was wonderful. And then my kids got older and I wasn't teaching at the time. I got back to teaching and realized how much I missed teaching. She had been teaching all along. I missed teaching. And so I was bivocational. I was at the school and I was at the church. And then as my life got busier and I was opening myself up to new projects, honestly, it was just like, I don't think I can do it all.
Yeah.
And then she was the accompanist.
So I stepped in to play piano, going on 18 years ago.
Right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When she stepped in to worship lead,
We had an accompanist, but that person ended up
leaving. And I was like, well, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So I was the accompanist for years. And then as she got busy, maybe 3 years ago, we sort of came up with a proposal to the church, how we could split it up a little bit more so that I could take some of her responsibilities. Because we couldn't see how she was going to do it. Once her school commitments increased, I mean, it's like, are you leaving this position?
Right.
Like, how are we doing this?
Right.
So my job, I was set with it. I felt like I could do it. My kids were a little bit older. So I said, yeah, I'll take some of that on. And I had been watching her do it for years.
Right.
And honestly, the congregation doesn't always know when it's her. It doesn't make that much of a difference. The congregation is getting someone they know and someone they know doing something very well. That's all that really matters.
Yep.
I mean, anytime I lead worship, I always start and introduce myself.
I always say, don't introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name's Kerrie Frazier. Welcome to worship this morning. And I honestly feel like people are like shocked that it's not.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that so
cracks
much.
me up. I mean, I'm sure you guys have switched though at some point, right? You said you
Constantly. I mean, we're always so that's, I think one of the reasons why this works for us is because we are so alike and we work so well together. So there's no one counting up the hours and going, well, I'm doing more work than you and it's my turn to do something. We have the lines of our jobs are very blurry and it really, really works for us. If when the day came that we were ever going to leave, I don't think that this situation could just work with two strangers.
Right.
Totally.
So I think they would have to, rework the description.
Totally. Yes.
But for us, it totally works. And, there'll be times in my life that I'm really busy and I'll go, you need to just cover for me. I can't do it. And then vice versa. And it's always fine.
It's always fine.
Yeah.
I just forgot what I was going to say.
She asked us if we switched places.
I just had something. Oh, well, sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good.
So in terms of even our job title, for years, she was director of worship and I was accompanist. Then when I took on a little bit more responsibility, we joked that she was the director of worship and I was the assistant director of worship. She was the assistant to the director.
That's funny. I love that.
That is funny.
But now it's almost like, can we just be co-directors at this point? Like, not that the title matters or anything, but it's funny how it has shifted over the years.
Yeah.
And I really feel so fortunate. In all of these years, we've had 3 or 4 different ministers. One had been there the most, and then a few others. And they've always been supportive of what we wanted to do.
That's so
sometimes
important.
it was a little crazy, and we would be like, we think it can work. And they always approved and supported us.
That's great.
That's awesome.
All right. So out of all of that, a podcast was born.
Well, the podcast was definitely born out of the pandemic.
Okay.
So that's good to know.
Pandemic hit. I mean, it was never like our dream to be podcast hosts.
Okay.
But pandemic hits March of 2020 and everything stops. We're both teachers. All of a sudden, we're not teaching. We're not seeing our kids anymore. It's all on Zoom like this. I mean, you know. And then worship, there was no more worship. No more live. Our church tried a few things, but for months, it was just us in the church alone, no congregation, live streaming because we always said that we were in the same bubble. Like you couldn't keep us apart in the pandemic.
Right. Yeah.
So our families, the 10 of us, were always together in the pandemic. So we would go to church. Our kids would play the instruments. Our husbands would run the tech. And it was the 10 of us and the pastor. And we would run the worship service from beginning to end, live streamed to our congregation. No congregants.
Right.
And it was hard. We missed our people. We missed the connection.
Right. And we were closed like that for a long time. A lot of churches, I think, in other parts of the country, even in other parts of Massachusetts, went back pretty fast. But it was like August.
Yeah.
It was August before we even put people in the building.
And then the people were in the building and they wouldn't sing when it came time to sing, because singing was like the most dangerous activity on the COVID list. When it came time to sing, the congregation still left. We gave them like 15 minutes to go home, and then we did all the singing. So we weren't together till I think January of 2021.
Wow.
And then in about March, we had a boiler like malfunction and like damaged a big part of our church. We had been together only a couple months, and then we had to close again.
Oh my gosh.
So this podcast idea is all Kerrie. She said, I think this is something that we can do. It can connect us to people and it can keep people worshiping. Yes. And I literally said, who is going to listen to a podcast about hymns?
No, that's great. I'm sure you guys have a ton of people that listen.
You know, people are very, very passionate about hymns. And
They
that's
are.
something I found, you know, on Instagram. You use the hashtag hymns, hymn
lover,
hymn sing. I mean, there
hymn
are
study,
hymn
hashtag
study.
hymn study.
There's plenty of people who love hymns. And we always joke that we are, through our podcast, we want to introduce a whole a new generation to hymns because
there's lots of kids and young adult Christians who don't know hymns.
That's
and
true.
then we want to introduce another generation to podcasts.
Yes.
Because that generation, they know their hymns.
They know
but
the hymns. That's awesome. Killing two birds with one stone. I love it.
That's
That
the way
is-
we look at it.
So cool. Well,
So in the pandemic, we really went hardcore with the podcast. It was every week. And we were doing a hymn a week. It was all on top of it. We were so on top of it because it was the pandemic and there wasn't as much going on. But then when school for us got back in person, you know, teaching every day, Monday through Friday, which wasn't really happening before. We realized that the podcast needed to be reshaped a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's when we moved to every other week.
Nice.
And that just gave us a little freedom.
Yeah.
well, as you know, maybe our podcast was born out of a ministry, which was born out of a pandemic. So similar-ish. But in that, I mean, what's your favorite part? What is your favorite part about this new world of podcasting? I was never going to be a podcaster.
Me either.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Me
Yeah.
So
either.
which one of you talked the other into the podcast? She talked you.
so she talked me into it, but I had a massive stipulation that almost
It was
a
deal breaker.
She said, I want to do a podcast with you. And I was like, cool. It has to be video. It has to be a video podcast. And she was like, no.
Nope.
And I was like, okay, well, that's it. And so anyway, she eventually acquiesced.
you.
And here we are.
Lost. She says acquiesce. I say lost.
Yeah. We only started the video portion not too long ago.
Yeah, like
we were just
January.
like traditional podcast audio
Yes.
only, but then we knew. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people say it's the best way to do it. I mean, we don't see a lot of traffic on YouTube, but they say just, keep doing it, keep plugging away at it. YouTube is the way to go.
I have heard that. I think for me, it just was like, if we're gonna sit down and do this, I'm a video editor by trade.
Right.
I have the equipment. Why wouldn't
we?
we just have both mediums just in case? You just never know. And so
No, it totally makes sense. I mean, I get it.
right, but like there are podcast groups and things that will say
They're
like,
you're opposed.
"Oh, you have a video podcast? I don't want to talk to you."
Yeah.
That's fine. Video podcast
Very
is the
judgy.
way to go.
Very, very
I didn't know
judgy.
that. I didn't know that either.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
and
Oh,
being
yes.
on video. Being on video has been fun, and
Except that, like, you don't understand. When we were just audio only, we would be like in our pajamas.
Yes.
Yes.
Our hair would be
Yes.
up in a ponytail. Like, it wouldn't matter.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, we're
Totally.
like doing video, and I'm like, oh shoot, I need to go
gotta
put
get
lipstick
ready.
on.
Yes.
I have to take a shower.
Yes.
Totally. I am so with you on that. For us, the transition recently has been that I'm so embarrassed.
I can't believe you're going to say
Of
this.
course I'm going to say it.
tell us.
So as we've mentioned, we film 7 to 9 in a weekend, and she comes down to us. So she brings like 10 shirts to wear because
Right.
as filmmakers, you have to make sure there's a different shirt per day so nothing ever looks the same. So it looks like we filmed it on a different day. And so we did that for a while, and just this time and last time I was like, I'm going to wear the same thing and see if anybody notices. And she said to me, I said, can I do that? She said, if anybody notices, you have to go back to doing it, to, doing all the different shirts. So I've worn this same dress all day today, and I'll be wearing it all day tomorrow. Because
And you've changed. She's changed.
she's
And I keep
changed.
changing.
She keeps changing. So anyway,
Maybe
that's
enough. So I
Yeah.
don't watch your video. I've listened to you on
You
my
listen.
podcast app. So there have to be people who just listen.
Yeah.
Oh,
sure.
there
Yeah,
are.
yeah,
Yes.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
It just is. It's video takes it to a whole nother level.
And what is interesting to me about her deciding to do this experiment is that she's the actress, right? So she's usually the one that's
which is why I don't want to do it.
on, and her makeup is perfect. And I don't even care, pretty much. But it's just been funny for her to go, oh yeah, I'm just gonna wear the same
Well,
thing
I just
all day
really
today.
like my pajamas and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know,
not
I
having
know.
to change outfits every hour.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
So one of the best things that has come up from this podcast, and I wonder if it's similar for you, is that it forces her and I to see each other, to be together, to be communicating. We both have 3 kids. We both have a million jobs. Our life is so busy. We see each other every Sunday for worship. So, maybe during the week we wouldn't have seen each other.
Yeah.
And this podcast gets us in each other's houses more.
It definitely forces my mom to come see me. That is
right.
That
Exactly.
is true.
Yeah.
No, it's good. And then it also allows for you to see, Jesse, my youngest brother is here in Chattanooga as well.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's definitely a blessing in more ways than one.
Yeah,
for you to come down and when we first started, we did like 3 in a weekend or something, and we were gonna
And we were exhausted.
we were doing it every month, and we were just so exhausted. I was like, let's just get it out.
Let's do it all at once.
Do it all at once. So anyway, but yes.
I know you're inspiring us to try to do that more.
We've talked about it, and I think we've done it once where we did 2 episodes in one night. And and
it was hard.
It was hard. The more planning, and she does all of the planning. She does all of the pre-producing of the episodes. So
Nice.
when
that's a great team, though. You do the pre, and Sarah,
I'll do
you
the post. Yeah.
Nice.
No, we should try to find
you
it
go.
like that, because she does all the post. She does all the editing and things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but
it works.
all the research.
Yeah.
There's lots of research, but that's like the more prepared you are, the less exhausting it is. The times when we're the most exhausting is when we don't know anything about the person and we're like on edge the whole time. And not that we don't know, we've done our research, we have information, but like if we don't know them or we don't vibe, right off the bat, I'm like, you have to be, it's emotionally exhausting.
Yeah. You just have to try hard. So much
you
harder.
should devote one episode to just the 2 of you. I mean,
We do.
Have you ever
just
done that?
Yeah, we do that. Yeah. So we have the first and the last episode of each season, I think, is just us. And then there's a couple, okay, maybe not everyone, based on your reaction.
Okay, I could be wrong. I was thinking this is the first time it's the last one.
Gotcha. But we have a couple, because we have got fun stories. And there was one episode where that was kind of dedicated to mental health. I recently went through eating disorder treatment. And so like there was a whole podcast that we kind of dedicated to like me talking about that. And honestly, we podcasted through that whole, like we didn't take any time off. We just had all the content in advance. And so I was able to go. So it wasn't like, oh guys, we're going to take a month break. And then we come back and be like, here's why. Right. So it just was, no one knew. And so anyway, so yes, there are plenty of podcasts that are just the 2 of us.
Well, I feel like I listened to one, but I thought it was more like you were talking about what was coming. It was like an episode dedicated to the upcoming season.
Yes. And so
I listened to one like that.
We've done that too. At the beginning of each season, we do that.
But it'll usually be coupled with some other story we're telling.
Yeah.
Like
One
time I talked about my blog, and one time we talked about a movie she had done. And so
I always like to, because it's always fun just talking with the 2 of us. It's a little less intimidating.
And she doesn't get these questions, but I get questions about her work all the time.
Of course you do. I have questions.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to go onto your podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
For you to get any answers.
Your turn.
Anyway, awesome. it's just we just have to sometimes put it out there personally. It can't always be about somebody else. In fact, we have one lady at my church. She has self-appointed her. Well, it was kind of a conversation, but she's kind of self-appointed herself to determine what our next topics are. When it's just the 2 of us.
Just for the 2 of us.
She's like, I don't really want to hear all these other people. I just want to hear the 2 of you.
Which I'm like, well,
no.
They're way more interesting than us.
Way more
What are you
interesting.
talking about?
Anyway,
that's funny.
She's sweet.
That's funny because we're him talk, twin talk. And then people are like, I mean, you don't really talk about being a twin that much.
Yeah, you might need to do that.
We were like, oh yeah, we have to talk about what it's like to be a twin and, him.
Yeah. You guys can throw in little twin nuggets. Little nuggets about things that are like those little, the odd similarities that you would think about twins.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Well, so as you know, probably, but for our listeners who may not know, we started this podcast to have a conversation, a very privileged conversation. We always want to make sure that we note that we know that this is a privileged conversation to have, that around the world, not everybody gets to talk about talents and gifts.
Right.
But we love talking about talents and gifts because we believe that God has equipped us with specific talents and gifts, even uniquely as twins will have, that we are supposed to cultivate and develop so that we can do the good works that he has set out in advance for us to do. But also we stole this from NT Wright, and I don't think he would be mad at us for it, so it's fine. But he has this, there's this visualization of how God is building his kingdom, right? And we get to participate in that. We get to collaborate with him on our brick that he's going to use in the kingdom of heaven. And so it's just so exciting. And so we believe that the talents and gifts that he's given us are for us to build this brick. And so we always preface with that it's a privilege to have this conversation, but also we preface that it's a little awkward talking, well, God gave me this talent. And so we always want to say it's not about giving us glory. It's about giving the creator glory, the one who really gave it to us. And so it's always to give him glory and honor for it. But then also show what he's doing in us or with us in those talents and gifts. So anyway, that was very long-winded. All that to be said, what are your unique talents and gifts?
Well, I mean, the music, is the most
that's the obvious.
Yes.
When I tell people, I mean, it's so bizarre to think that there's nothing in my life that I have done longer than play piano, except for like read
and breathing,
and walk and breathe, and like playing piano has been since we were 5 years old.
Right? Wow.
So there's just nothing in my life. Whatever you do, if you go figure skating or you play soccer, there's just nothing. So to me, it's so natural. It's just a part of who I am and what I do. I can put my fingers down and play anything. And I don't take that for granted. Like it's such a cool thing to be able to
very special.
I love it. And the fact that I get to play every Sunday and play awesome hymns and praise songs and sing praise to God while I'm doing it and leading our whole congregation, like that's not lost on me. I think it's really, really wonderful. And I know that it's a gift from God. Like it's not really about my abilities. It's just that he gifted that to us, and he put it on our parents' heart to nurture it, and there it is. So and I think you would say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that the music, the musical talent is there. But I really think that the gift that God gave me that is unique, although you have it too, I'm sure, is the gift of creativity. And I think that we can find people who play piano and find people who can sing. But I think that God has given me a creative mind to look at a worship service and craft it and be creative with it. And honestly, I feel like I'm creative with my students. I'm creative in every aspect of my life, and I just feel like God gave me this creative mind. Why wouldn't I use it in the church to further his kingdom? And I know that there's churches that aren't so open to creativity. So not only have I been blessed with the gift, but I've also been blessed to be in the right place with the right people so that I can use that gift to its fulfillment.
Amen.
It's one of the things that I love about my job. And we have such a receptive congregation. I love that I get to be creative. And like, I look at Jesus and I think that he's creative. He was creative when he talked to people, and he could have just stood up and preached, but he didn't. He told stories, and he engaged, and he drew images and pictures for people. And if Jesus was creative, then we can be too.
Absolutely.
Jesus knew how to engage people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There wasn't anybody sitting there going, this is boring. Right. Everybody was in his presence.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Like in awe at every word that was coming out of his mouth.
Amen.
And yes, you could say that was, of course, the
Holy Spirit.
Right. God's crafted those words, but it was because of the way he interacted and the way he engaged people. And I do think that there's a piece to that too that plays into it. Yeah. And even with your theater background, I wonder if you feel like the ability to engage, the ability to interact, that can be that's a gift as well.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I was talking with someone on Instagram, a hymn loving person, and we were talking about this James McGranahan hymn, I Will Sing of My Redeemer. And the hymn is posted. We had some comments back and forth. And I said, oh, we sang the refrain as a sermon response for the last 3 months. We've just been singing the refrain. And she said in the comment, she had never heard of anybody doing that. She said she had never heard of singing just the refrain week after week after week. And it was like,
and that's something I do all the time at worship.
Our pastor just lets us, if that works for the sermon series, then do it. And it really made me feel grateful for the place that I'm at. And everybody worships in their own way, and maybe singing a refrain every week people wouldn't like, but for us, it works.
Yeah.
Totally.
So cool.
To plug a previous guest we had, there's a book called The Art of Marketing Jesus, where he talks about exactly what you're talking about, of how engaging Jesus was. He was like the single most attractive person to be with and to watch and to engage with. And so that's totally from the Holy Spirit, right? That is totally a talent and gift that we get to participate in as well, that he had, which is so cool.
Oh yeah, it is.
And speaking of Jesus. Tell me a little bit about, this is like a new thing we're doing in season 4, where we're asking folks if you could share one thing each. I'm not going to make you both share one thing, but one thing each about Jesus, whether it's about his character or what he's done in your life. Just one thing that you could share. What would that be? And we'll start with Kellie.
Yeah, I think I just said it. That's kind of what it's kind of what I was thinking, is that, I have this Savior who, I love and who I follow, and he is creative and engaging. And then he's the example that I follow. I mean, he's the example that I follow in so many ways, but I just think this creative mind, and that he valued creativity. And so now I get to follow in his footsteps.
That's so cool.
Such a gift.
Absolutely. That's really cool. What about you?
I feel like mine is so elementary, but I just want to say he loves you. He loves me and he loves you.
Yes.
And I think that we as humans, I think we can go to one extreme or the other, right? One is I'm fine. I'm a really good person. I don't need Jesus.
Right.
And the opposite extreme is like, I'm terrible. Like I can't do anything right. And he meets you wherever you are. And he loves you wherever you are, because both of those can be true or false, or half true, half false, depending on any given day.
Sure.
You feel like you're killing it one day, and then you feel like you're not. And I don't know, just feel like knowing that you have a place in God's kingdom. Mm-hmm. It's not for this special group. It's not for the elite. It's not for the talented. It's not for the smart. It's for all of us.
Yep.
And I don't know, sometimes we get wrapped up in, someone who feels like they can't come to church. Like, oh, no, that's not right.
Right.
Like lightning will strike.
The walls would burn down. And it's like, Jesus loved the sinners. We're all sinners. He was the only perfect one. So I don't know. I just think of Jesus' love. And I feel like I want more people to hear that message. There's lots of messages that get put out there about who Jesus is and who Jesus was and what he did and what he said and what he would have liked, what he would have thought of this current climate or whatever. And it's like, forget all that.
Forget all that.
Just know that he loves you no matter what. There's nothing you can do to change it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Perfect.
And totally perfect.
Yeah. That's
absolutely.
Awesome. All right, ladies. Well, where can folks connect with you?
Yes.
Instagram is a big way.
Apparently. We love Instagram.
I knew Instagram was going to be the answer.
We're all over social media. Instagram,
Facebook,
Twitter.
Yep. And we're Hymn Talk Twin Talk, but on Twitter, for some reason, we're just Hymn Talk.
Okay.
But if you Google Hymn Talk Twin Talk, you're going to find us.
Right.
It'll take you to a podcasting site or it'll take you to our social media. Okay. And we love hearing from people. And like I said before, we have a very small but passionate family of hymn lovers and people want to engage all the time, like that person on Instagram who we just happen to be talking about a hymn.
Yes.
And we do giveaways, so we're trying to be really active with our followers. So, follow us, like us, tweet about us, and we will totally engage with you.
Yes.
That's awesome.
We love that.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh. And we're on, you're on probably all the music playing apps too, but like iTunes, Spotify,
Google Podcasts.
Sure. Yeah. Anywhere you listen to podcasts. So wherever you're listening to this right now, you can find them. Do it.
And we just started on YouTube. Right. So for people who want to watch rather than listen. I like to listen. I like to be in my car, drive to work. I want to listen. But for people who want to watch, we're there too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys. This has been so awesome. And it's so nice to meet you. I cannot wait to be on your podcast, I am on the lookout for that official invitation.
Yes.
Pretty please.
We've gotten it.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't gotten
It's
mine.
official.
I'm
We
just
just have to
kidding.
set the date.
Okay.
It's official. It's official. We're setting the date.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, this has been awesome. You two are so special, and just I can feel the joy that comes from the joy and the peace that comes from loving Jesus and being loved by Jesus.
Yeah.
It's just oozing out of you guys, and it's awesome.
Yes.
And this has just been such a blessing to us today, and so we're so grateful.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
you.
You two both are very special and wonderful too.
I know, and you're very inspiring.
Yes.
Like,
Oh my
maybe
gosh.
We'll do a podcast with our daughter someday.
Yes.
Yes.
I highly recommend it.
That would be cool.
Especially if you live far away, and then it forces
Then
you
it
to be
works out,
together.
yeah.
It's wonderful. I love it. Well, this has been awesome, ladies. Have a wonderful rest of your day and a great
You
weekend.
too.
Thank you.
Bye.
God bless.
Bye now.
Thank you guys so much for listening to our podcast with Kellie and Kerrie. This podcast was made possible through generous listeners and friends like you, and we are so very grateful to our supporters. If you would like to sponsor an episode of The Collaboration Conversation, head over to thecollaborationconversation.org and click Sponsor an Episode.
For more information on Project Brickworks, visit us online at projectbrickworks.org. Subscribe to our newsletter or text BRICK to 55498 to get the latest news and updates. We love y'all. Be blessed, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.